The story kicks off with a cave so huge it supposedly connects straight down to Earth's core. Sounds like the kind of place you'd either find priceless treasures or end up regretting your life choices forever. A team of researchers went in to check it out, but guess what? They never came back. Great start, right? Now meet Frank. He's the kind of guy who looks at old relics and caves the way kids look at candy. For him, the deeper the cave, the better. And when he hears about the world's largest cave, he just can't resist. He even brings along his wife Jude, while their son Josh is about to join in soon. Because what says family vacation better than a death hole in the ground? Their expedition gets bankrolled by Carl, a businessman who insists on tagging along because he wants front row seats to the madness. He also brings his girlfriend Liz and Frank's son Josh along for the ride. With gear packed and the crew ready, they hop on a helicopter and head for the mountains. From the sky, the cave looks massive, like bottomless, massive. Scientists once tried measuring it, but gave up because nobody could even guess how deep it really went. Some even say it cuts straight through the planet and comes out somewhere else. Frank and Jude gear up and head into the cave. The entrance greets them with a water passage, which means time to dive. Problem is, Jude isn't feeling well. George, their assistant, warns Frank not to take her, but Jude insists she won't stay behind. Frank caves, pun intended, and they dive in together. Meanwhile, Carl, Liz, and Josh are getting ready to jump in the cave and join Frank and the others. At first, things look good. George tracks Frank and Jude on the monitors, heartbeat steady, swimming smooth. But then trouble hits. The tunnels narrow, forcing them to ditch their extra oxygen tanks just to squeeze through. A choice that will definitely come back to haunt them. Eventually, they reach a strange sight. 2 layers of water stacked on top of each other. An incredible view. Frank wants to explore, but with oxygen running low, they back off. And then, disaster. Jude's hose snags on a rock, ripping loose her air supply. Bubbles pour out, her suit fills with water, and she panics. Frank tries to save her, even gives her his own oxygen, but she's too frantic to take it in. Outside, George freaks out watching her vitals spike. Frank keeps fighting to help, but Jude is slipping fast. Finally, her supply cuts out completely. On the surface, Josh refuses to believe it. He thinks his mom will pull through. But when he sees Frank carrying her lifeless body out of the water, reality hits. She's gone. And Josh? He blames Frank for everything. Frank was crushed with guilt. The loss was so heavy that Frank told the team to pack it up. Everyone agreed it was best to leave. But walking out of the cave was one thing. Climbing back up was another. While the family drama was in full swing, things outside took a dangerous turn. A storm rolled in overhead, and the clouds began spitting down heavy rain. The team outside couldn't reach Frank and the others, as the comms suddenly stopped working. As Frank and team started their journey back, Josh and the others caught strange noises echoing from deep below. Not the kind of sound you want in a cave that already feels cursed. Liz ignored it and began climbing. But then the cave itself turned into a nightmare. Water started pouring in fast, and nobody could tell where it was coming from. Panic set in. Frank had the team moving in shifts. Half stayed with him while the rest left with Josh first. But even he didn't expect a flood this sudden. If the water kept rising, they'd all be trapped. Josh tried the radios again, and finally got through to Jim. Through all the static, Jim warned that a huge water storm was flooding everything. If they didn't escape now, the cave would swallow them whole. Meanwhile, Cal, the businessman who thought this was a vacation, was still diving for fun. Liz, on the other hand, was hanging from a rope while water slammed into her. The team rushed to save her before the rope snapped. Frank's side wasn't safe either. Water was leaking through the cave walls. Proof the whole place was about to flood. Time was running out. He scrambled for a plan while Josh's group came back, but the rushing water was brutal. Soon it was at their waists and climbing. No research had ever shown this kind of sudden flood, and now they were trapped in the largest cave on Earth, with no idea where the roaring waters would send them. The chamber filled faster and faster. The rope was their only way out. Liz fought to climb, tossing it higher, but the water kept slamming her back. Josh tried to help, not noticing the huge boulder anchoring the rope was shifting. As the rock cracked loose, everyone realized if they didn't move, they'd be crushed. Liz got tossed back by the raging water, and Cole tried to dodge the falling rock, but smashed into the wall instead. He went limp, swept away by the current, sinking deeper into the cave. Josh tried to help, but the flood was way too strong, dragging Cole even further. Frank appeared to save his son. Their only exit? Completely blocked. The hole was now a roaring waterfall no one could push through. He told them about another narrow path he and Jude had spotted earlier. It might be their only shot. Even though hope flickered, everyone knew the delay had cost too much. Meanwhile, Cole's body was found in terrible shape. Bones shattered, face broken. Frank realized his son shouldn't see this. Frank and Cole shared a painful understanding. Cole was hurt so badly he couldn't survive, and dragging him along would only risk the rest of them. Cole asked to be released from his suffering. Frank didn't want to, but there was no other option. With a heavy heart, he let Cole slip away into the water. The group pressed forward. Frank pointed out the narrow path, explaining it was the only chance left. But Liz, Carl's girlfriend, froze in fear. She had never faced anything like this and couldn't imagine holding steady underwater for so long. If she panicked inside, everyone behind her would be stuck too. Frank decided she should go last. Everyone strapped on oxygen and began pushing through. The passage was brutally tight, scraping their suits, but somehow each of them made it. Then came Liz's turn. She panicked badly. The tunnel narrowed, her gear scraped against rocks, and she spun in the wrong direction, exactly what Frank had worried about. Frank and Josh swam back fast with ropes, but before they could help, she got out. Thankfully, she wasn't hurt, just shaken. The group caught their breath, thinking the worst was behind them. Frank pushed them onward, convinced the exit had to be near. But the cave wasn't done with them yet. Liz was freezing, and without quick help, she could slip into hypothermia. Frank's team wrapped her in silver foil like a baked potato, and somehow it worked. She pulled through, but survival wasn't a free ticket. Frank called for a pause. They shut down all gear to save battery and sat in the darkness. Doubt crept in fast. Some thought Frank was clueless, maybe even tricking them the same way he'd once fooled his wife. Carl spoke up, saying Frank should go find the way out himself. Frank saw it clearly now. Everyone only cared about their own survival. Meanwhile, George hid a serious injury. Cuts across his chest ran so deep they nearly touched his heart. He stayed quiet, not wanting to drag the group down. Soon they moved toward a strange layered zone Frank had once explored. George tried to keep up, but lagged behind. Josh noticed and asked if he was fine. George brushed it off, forcing himself forward, until he was worse than anyone knew. George tried lifting his spirit with a memory, how Frank once saved an entire team, and even found ancient creatures no one had ever seen. It made Josh start to see his father in a new way. But then, silence. George was gone. Frank and another teammate rushed back, only to realize George had left his oxygen behind. He chose not to slow them down. He knew what that meant. The team was crushed. Carl, instead of mourning, whipped out his camera to film everything for money. Frank snapped. This wasn't a movie. People were vanishing. After a heated clash, Carl backed down, shame written all over him. They had to move on. Rescue was never coming. Anyone outside would already think they were long gone. Frank led the group to a rocky ledge. Below was a huge black pond, endless and cold. Across the way was a small hole, maybe their only way out. But to get there, someone had to cross with a rope. One mistake meant dropping straight into the abyss. Everyone froze until Josh stepped up. He had been a top climber, a real champion once. He stared at his father, tightened the rope, and began to descend. Every grip mattered. One slip, and he'd vanish into the deep. The group held its breath. Josh risked everything as he kept moving forward. Then came the jump. A huge leap no normal person would even try, but somehow he pulled it off. His hands caught the far side, and he climbed up, tying the rope firm so the others could cross. One by one, the group made it over, but Victoria froze. Heights were her nightmare, and her body locked up. They tried calming her, telling her to just look up, but panic won. She slipped, her hair yanked into the rocks, and all her weight dragged down. The pain was unbearable. Carl rushed to help, and Frank joined in. They cut her hair loose, but she dropped straight into the water. She didn't come back up. The team was shaken, but Frank pressed on. To him, survival mattered more than mourning. That choice angered Carl and Josh, but they still followed. Soon another passage appeared. Before anyone could think, Carl dove in with their oxygen tank. Frank had no choice but to go after him, but Carl got away. Frank and Josh popped out in a rocky cave that finally seemed to rise upward. They noticed animal droppings, a clear sign of life above. Climbing slowly, hour by hour, they pushed upward. When Frank's helmet light failed, he relied on faint watch reflections. At last, a giant opening appeared. Daylight flickered through, and just below sat a rusted military tank. Escape felt close, but unreachable. The hole was far too high, so they scavenged the tank for scraps, hoping rescue would come. But of course, it wasn't that easy. They went deeper into the cave and saw a river. Carl was there too. That's when they found Victoria's lifeless body. The sight broke Carl completely. He snapped, blaming Frank for dragging them here, for everything. Rage took over. Carl attacked with an oxygen tank, smashing Frank's head. Frank was gravely hurt, unable to move. Carl jumped into the river. Frank begged his son to leave him. He had already lost his wife. He didn't want Josh trapped too. With tears, Josh granted his father's wish, holding him under until his suffering ended, then grabbed the oxygen tank and dove into the river. On the way, Carl's lifeless body drifted by, but Josh ignored it. His air was fading fast, his body slowing, until light broke above. He burst through the surface into the open sea. An island was nearby, with vacationers enjoying the day, clueless about the nightmare below. Josh had made it out, but at a terrible cost. His team, his father, his family, gone. And that's where the story ends.